Choose your champion. Special segment. Today I'm going to choose my pick for the winner of the Hearthstone Championship Tour World Champion 2017. So 16 excellent choices. They fought hard over the period of 2017. On the merits of decks alone, I am going to be picking Frozen as my champion. Winner, if they win, you get 6 packs. Pretty sweet deal. Frozen, you are chosen. So this tournament features a lot of people bringing pretty much what you would expect people to bring. 16 out of 16 of the players brought Priest, but it's a pretty wide variety of what type of Priest they brought. Most often it was the Highlander, Raza, Anduin, Kazakus deck. 15 out of 16 players brought Warlock. Cube Warlock is defined by having the cube in it, Carnivorous Cube, and Doom Guards. Control Warlock is generally defined by not having Cube or Doom Guard in it, and just having more controlling elements, possibly going for a fatigue strategy. 15 out of 16 of the players brought Druid. Big split here, 9 people brought Aggro Druid, 6 people brought Jade Druid, and the next most popular deck, or class rather, was Rogue at 12 tempo decks. If you wanted to look at pure numbers alone for deck archetype, 12 tempo Rogue is actually the most of a single deck if you didn't combine the Highlander Priest and the Dragon Highlander Priest. And then thrown in there a mix of other decks such as 2 Murloc Paladins, 2 Control Mages, and 1 Aggro Hunter. So I've actually grouped them into the Druid decks here. Orange was the player who didn't bring any Druid. The Priest deck, the Warlock deck, Ant was the player who didn't bring Warlock, and then the other deck, usually Rogue, but in some cases Control Mage, and in some cases Murloc Paladin. Surprisingly, 0 Aggro Paladins in this setup. So a really control-based meta, probably the least amount of patches together that has ever been assembled into a tournament. There's a big difference in the type of Druid and the type of Warlock you bring. And this is a Conquest best of 5 format. You bring 4 decks, you ban one of your opponents. So the ban plays a big part in how you prepare your decks. Let's talk about Purple's decks. I think this is a really good showcase of this particular strategy. Purple brought the aggro version of Druid, the control version of Warlock, Highlander Priest, which is the typical default bring, and then Tempo Rogue. So what does this deck seek to do? Well, Control Warlock is really bad against Priest. It's even worse than Cube Warlock because he can't burst them down. Control Warlock's win rate against Highlander Priest is in fact quite dismal. Therefore, this strategy seeks to ban Priest. Also, Druid and Rogue are pretty bad against Priest, incidentally. So you have 3 decks that are bad against Priest, you ban the Priest, and then you have Warlock, Druid, Rogue. Presumably you expect to go up against Warlock, Druid, Rogue. Maybe you tech a little bit more against Control as a result. Now, as a note, of course, unlike me, the players did not have the privileged information of knowing what everyone else would bring. But this is what Purple, at least, seems to have been going for. jnZaneHD represents another major strategy. Again, you're bringing Warlock, Priest, Druid, and Rogue, but there's a very fine difference. Instead of bringing Control Warlock, you're bringing Cube Warlock. Instead of bringing Aggro Druid, you're bringing Jade Druid, and perhaps your Tempo Rogue has more Cobalt Scalebanes in it. jnZaneHD's strategy appears to be leaving Priest open because Highlander Priest is very bad against Jade Druid, and Jade Druid just armors up so much it gets past the Highlander Priest Spurn. With your Cube Warlock, you can actually beat Highlander Priest if you run the Mountain Giant version, as well as the Carnivorous Cube version. With the Doom Guards, you burst them down. So leave the Priest open, ban Warlock. That appears to be jnZaneHD's main strategy, and I much like his lineup. But finally, let's talk about the lineup that I think is the truth beyond the truth. Frozen is one of the 2 players who brought Control Mage, and I feel like out of Frozen and Scintillol, the other player who brought Control Mage, Frozen's version is better. So initially when I looked at the deck list, I was thinking, Control Mage, that seems like a loser of a pick. But after doing the analysis of general strategies, Frozen has the Cube Warlock and the Jade Druid as well. So he's looking to bully the Priest with those 2 decks, kind of. I mean, with the Jade Druid. But the Control Mage is a deck that can really beat up the Priest as well. It's not that favored, but played right, and it is difficult to play right, but I have no doubt Frozen can do it. The general game plan is you develop your ice block, they try to burst you down, your ice block procs, and then you play your second ice block after that, or perhaps you play your Arcane Artificer and then you cast some spells and heal up, or perhaps you out-Extraza yourself. So one of the three of those things. Hopefully you have Jaina out, maybe you can heal after the ice block has been broken. You have 2 Dirty Rats in your mage, so you can pull out the Raza, you can pull out the Valen. Either of those mean you win. The one thing I perhaps don't like about Frozen's picks here is the way he built his Cube Warlock. I like Shtanudachi's Warlock more with the Mountain Giants, because those are able to beat up the Highlander Priest more readily. That said, though, I'm still picking Frozen over Sintolol, the other player who brought Control Mage, because his Warlock is even worse against Priest. And it seems like if you wanted to leave Priest open, having 3 decks that are better against Priest makes sense to me. In this case, Sintolol is just going for a 2 decks are good against Priest strategy, probably ban Warlock. Out of all 16 of these players, I expect everyone who brought Jade Druid to ban Warlock, and everyone who brought Aggro Druid to ban Priest. Frozen also has some really interesting tech in his Jade Druid. I'm not sure whether or not it's good. It's Violet Teachers in his Druid. I'm just gonna cross my fingers and hope that works out for him. So that's my pick for 2017 World Champion. My runner-up is Shtanudachi because he also has a very capable strategy. A little bit different from the pack by bringing Cube Warlock and Jade Druid. I feel like this Cube Warlock version is excellent against Priest. He bullies the Priest with his Mountain Giants, with his Jade Druid. Not so much with his Rogue is the problem. No, yeah, not so much with the Rogue. But with Cobalt Scalebane's tech, it's like, it makes it better against Priest. So, that's great. Why wouldn't you pick Kolento? He's been really successful pretty consistently. These are the top 16. They're all very good. I feel like Kolento's lineup isn't actually very good. So, if you bring Jade Druid, you're probably leaving Priest up. But the problem with leaving Priest up is you brought Control Warlock and you brought Tempo Rogue, which are both decks that are weak against Priest, so maybe Kolento is going to ban Priest anyways. And if you ban Priest, then you have Control Warlock, Druid, and Rogue all up against Warlock, which are all bad matchups, so I don't like any of this. That's the reason why I don't like Kolento's lineup. That said, any of these 16 people can win.